everybody, while we're waiting for this magnificent presentation by Sean, we want to ask you to pay attention to your breathing. So for the next 90 minutes, along with listening to Sean, to tell you how not to find Jesus. Sean is going to give you a perfect explanation of how not to discover Jesus and your spiritual 9 steps to abundance. So everything he told you that happened to him to get him here, the first thing you realize is the reason he's here is to keep you from having to go through that to get here. So you don't need to go to jail, you don't need to be abused, you don't need to get shot, you don't need to get beat. You don't have to be crazy to discover Jesus. You just have to listen to Sean and realize the inner nature of you does not necessarily have to go through what he's been through to bring you that place to find abundance. So quietly breathe deep. Appreciate Robert Quicksilver, who created this program for us, who sweated and cried in his team. And so with no further absolute great to do, let me introduce you to Sean Clayton. The worst way to discover your spiritual Christian, Christ-conscious identity. Sean's way.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. That was beautiful. Yeah. I know, right? Yeah. I'm definitely gonna tell you how not to find Jesus. So that was cool. That was cool. All right. So what I normally do, if anybody's taken any of my classes or anything like that, we just do like a quick drop in and breathe. Okay. So we're gonna take 3 quick breaths. All right. What we do is we do a 4 count in, hold 2 at the top, and then a 6 count out. I'll count the first one, and then do 2 on your own. Does that work? All right. So on me, we'll go in through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2 at the top. 1, 2. Then out through the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now do 2 on your own. As Dr. Joe says, come back to me. All right, so I shifted this a little bit. We're still going to talk about the 9 dimensions of creation, but then something came to me 2 days ago. It was like, okay, you got to go into this Tesla code and this 369 thing. And I don't know how many of you follow the video things that I do, but I talk about this a lot. And in this, what we talk about is how to actually create your reality. And how many show of hands are familiar with the Kabbalah? Studied deep in it. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about that. You're going to see how that shows up in here. Astrology, I'm assuming, probably everybody, maybe, I don't know. All right. Philosopher's Stone, anybody? Okay, all right, that's going to be in here a little bit. The 231 gates, anybody know about that one? No? Okay, they're back because I stumped you. All right. Amazing. All right, all of what you're going to see inside of this is that there's a path from what we don't normally do as human beings of self-love, okay, that's going to lead us to this wild, abundant creation. And when you can go from self-love to abundant creation, you actually get in a state where you can predict the future, because it's not really predicting, you're creating your future, so it kind of shifts a little bit, okay? You're actually going to get into a space where infinite wealth comes to you, but that wealth doesn't always look like finances. It just shows up exactly when you need it, and you're never without, all right? It shows up in health, all right? So you start to, you know, I mean, I give you guys stories about myself where I was like thyroid condition, massive issues, and all of that shifted like this, like wildest stuff I could have ever imagined. And if you know my story, as I was told, I've gone through a lot of stuff. I was sexually abused from 9 to 14, federally incarcerated for 4 years, tried to take my life 4 times, like crazy stuff. And the world that I should be in today, based on those traumatic patterns that I have, should be pretty bad, okay? I should be still in some place, hurting, doing something, you know, one of those crazy people, okay? But even those crazy people are looking for something, and that's what I find, is that there are no mental health issues, there's just mental health gifts. And once you recognize that you actually have a gift in the trauma that you've lived in and how you can change those things, everything shifts. So we're going to show how we get to that. Generally, listening to me is like drinking through a fire hose, and I've slowed down a lot. So if there's ever any point that in the crowd you're like, look, stop, raise your hand, and I'll go back and revisit it, I have no issues doing that, okay? So we're also going to get into the keys of the universe. So Tesla left this thing for people, and it was like, oh yeah, 369 keys of the universe, and nobody knows what the hell that means. Okay, it's like, thanks, guy. But what I've recognized, and you know, one of the things that I always hear in the spiritual space is like, where's your evidence that this existed before? I was like, well, who wrote the first Bible? Like, where was that before that came up? And everything came through this channeling and spoken word and information and downloads that drop in. So I'm gonna be honest with you, this just came in. So you could throw this in, you can keep it, it might feel right, but everything that I do and that I pull together, I mathematically kind of curate so that there's an architecture to it and it makes sense. So you'll see some of that in this, okay? In addition to that, what we're also going to explore is a reflection of awareness. All right, so how can we truly be aware? How can we truly get in a state of stillness? And then I have a couple of tools at the end. There'll be some QR codes up there. You can scan them. I'm very technical, so I get into things like ChatGPT, where I created this whole thing where it allows you to like kind of predict the future. It's kind of cool, okay? A couple of other things where you say, how do I fix my relationship? And there's some mantras and stuff that it gives you, so you'll get some of that as well. So if you like technology, great. If we think AI is taking over the world, I've got a whole class that you can come talk to me about it at some point. All right. So in order to understand the keys of creation, we have to understand what love is. And I've had deep debates about what love is because we think love is the thing we've been taught. And truthfully, what I would recognize love is that when we start to harmonize with the energy outside of us between two people, two things, two entities, like if I'm really going to love that water bottle, I'm going to resonate in what it wants to give to me. So what that water bottle wants to give to me is it wants to be drank and held well. If I start crushing it and doing something weird to it, and I'm really not loving it because whatever resonance it's putting off is a little bit off. So I have these two cute puppies. One's named Obi, and one is named Luna. Luna is nuts, okay? Luna goes and she just has like the most wild energy you could ever imagine, screams at you all day long, comes running like it's just, you know, won't stop, like licks Obi's mouth. Like it's just the wildest thing. And then Obi is just chill. He's just like super zen. Like if a puppy were Buddha, that would be Obi, right? Like he's just like centered all the time. Can take it all, empathize it all, and really beautiful. What ends up happening between Obi and Luna is that Luna drives him a little nuts, and he is constantly empathizing, taking in that energy, alchemizing it, and giving back out, all right? But sometimes it's just a bit too much and he snaps, right? And that's when the love falls off, when he's not resonating with what she's giving him, because sometimes she just wants him to run with her. But he has to know himself in order to understand where that's going to be and why he would end up doing that, and then they end up reflecting that into each other. So what we have to recognize is that there's going to be people in our life that we're going to meet. There's going to be energies around us, because we oftentimes just judge energy as like, that's low vibration, that's high vibration. What you'll hear is I eliminate those words around high and low. It's just harmony and disharmony. There's flow and non-flow, right? And when you stop judging the thing that doesn't feel good to you, it actually starts to adjust itself as you being the mirror, right? You stand in that stillness and that truth, and everything starts to reflect much differently, right? And now Luna and Obi are pretty good friends, but they know how to resonate with each other, right? They know how to love each other. And so that's the shift. So it's not about trying to match the external affirmation or the external illusion outside of you. What it becomes is a thing of knowing yourself so well that the outside illusion starts to adjust itself to you. And this is how we start to create our realities. And so what I call this is stillness through invitation. Invitation is receivership. We're in the space and time where it's the divine feminine age, right? We are moving into this age of Aquarius, and this age of receivership, and this age of non-masculine efforting, but the masculine has to integrate in a space of wisdom. So when we recognize that there's this integration in a space of wisdom as masculine, by being able to receive the information that's always been given to us for thousands and thousands of years, and we integrate that, things start to change. And we all have the energy inside of all of us, right? So it's like there's no person, like people are like, oh, you're psychic, you know the stuff. I don't know anything. I just get out the way and it starts to come in. And that's what we are all here to do. We all have this, what I call Messiah consciousness. It's Christ consciousness, it's Buddha consciousness, whatever name you want to give it, it doesn't matter. But that's the harmony that's there to receive. So I'm going to go into this code of 369, all right? And there's what it really came to me is when I started to see, everybody sees angel numbers, right? All right, so you see these angel numbers like, oh my God, something crazy is going to happen. It's going to be awesome, right? And what I recognize angel numbers is just code that you're on the path that 369 is showing up. If you add up angel numbers, 444, 333, 222, it always ends up 369. So they always reduce down to that digital root. Another thing came to me, sequential numbers do the exact same thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 always end up at 369 as well. So when you see that, that's another recognition of it. That took me down a real deep rabbit hole that you'll see that I got into here in a second, okay? Yeah, because I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting. And it actually ties into astrology and a couple of other things once you see it. Then there's frequency numbers. What's even wilder is every frequency number that we have healing frequencies, you add those up, those are again 369, which is even more interesting. Okay, so I was like, all right. So there's something really interesting to this, but where does it live and why do we have these other numbers? So what we'll talk about is those other numbers are a path for us to deal with ourselves and that create balance in our lives, okay? The 369 are what I call the isness, okay? And we'll talk about these dimensions and how they specifically work, and you'll see like, okay, yeah, you can say this is right or wrong, but it's a model. As Mateus de Stefano says, this is a model, like it's a thing. You know, it's one truth, not all truths. So we could subscribe or not subscribe. What also came to me and had a cool conversation with Robert Grant is that there's only 9 numbers in the universe. Okay, if you really think about it, you know, you've got other ones, but when you add them together, they always end up at 1 through 9. And the 0 is the divine feminine that births everything. And it always moves. Did anybody know who Max Laughlin is? Have you heard that name before? So Max Laughlin was this kid, and he came up with this really interesting concept and theory around infinite sets, and the sets of infinity have these alpha sets, and they keep growing and growing and growing. And so every 1 through 9 ends up being an infinite set because you can go infinitely deep in that 1 through 9 number. So you can go 1.11111, and you kind of go deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's just exploration between the numbers 1 through 9, and yet we're always looking for more instead of appreciating the stillness of that 1 through 9 that we have, right? So most of us are looking so much outside of ourselves, and if you think about, you know, I always have this thing with the divine, one mind, God, whatever you want to call it, is God at some point like questioned itself, like, oh, what am I, who am I? And then boom, all of the universe is created, and we're part of that, looking back at God saying, thank you, and then damn it, that kind of sucks sometimes, okay? But when we actually go through the process of recognizing that we are this unified stillness, the whole thing shifts, okay? So when we understand that all of these numbers is just 1 through 9, then we can start playing around with the concepts of dimensionality. So this is the dimensions, and I'm going to walk up to the screen, okay? So we have 9 dimensions, all right? And in these 9 dimensions, the first 3 are the ones that we're most familiar with. Most of us live here in the first 2 dimensions. We don't have an understanding of the depth of self. So the first dimension is what I call the dimension of initiation. So if you see the number 1 show up in your life a lot, you're initiating something. Something's getting started, right? If you start to see 2 show up in your life, you're integrating something. So like think about the zodiac and think about your astrology chart. You go from, you know, yeah, the first part of it, and you're like, oh, I need to initiate something in my life. Now I need to integrate. We're in a season of integration right now. Like that's the season that we're in. It's pretty cool. Third dimension, you get into Pisces, you go into depth, okay? Most of us don't understand the depth of ourselves. I don't know how fast my heart's beating right now. So we go get an aura ring, okay, we get a whoop, we get whatever, now we understand that. I don't understand how the cells are moving through my body. I don't understand my vibration most of the time. So most of us have a very limited understanding of the 3-dimensionality of ourselves. Every dimension that you understand here ends up projecting the dimensions below it, right? And so the 4th dimension is presence. And this is why, you know, Eckhart Tolle talks about be here now, because once you have that stillness and that presence, you can start to understand the depth of yourself because you can explore yourself. You can start to understand how to integrate and initiate. These are the easy parts. Starting something's not hard. Like if I wanted to push that TV over, not hard, now I got to integrate it, and that'd be like they'd be pissed off at me back there, but I could do that. Your 5th dimension is your spirit-soul connection. This is where you get into non-judgment, non-righteousness. Most of us, when we judge another or we say, okay, well, that's good or bad, or that's happy or sad, and we get into the duality of the polarity. The polarity is the gift, the duality is the challenge. So when we get into the duality and we start judging, we snap ourselves back into this present stage. Then we got to go back into depth and understand ourselves, and we keep wrestling with this 5-dimensional construct. So most of us are like, hey, I'm a 5th-dimensional being. All of us are. We're actually 9th-dimensional beings. We just haven't figured out how to get here. Okay? And so when you understand the numbers and the way that it works, then you can sit there and say, okay, well, then what is this divine plan, right? Like once you get to the 6th dimension, and this is the interesting one, because once you start seeing 666, and you're like, oh, that's the devil number, the number of the beast. Well, it kind of is if you're not actually walking in your purpose. And that's your divine purpose. That's the plan of yourself. That's what you were created. Every one of us was born here at a very specific time, specific place, came out of a very specific human being, and no other person was born at that same place, same time as you. You have a very specific frequency that is divinely perfect for you. And I started working with a group called Zodiac FM, and they have figured out how to take your birth chart and turn it into an actual frequency at the time of your birth so you can understand the frequency you were created by, which is super cool, okay? I'll give you a code. You can get it for free after this, okay? But yeah, so this is, it's like amazing. You listen to it, and if you're really tapped in, you have these like really blissful experiences. Like I went to 9 Dr. Joe retreats. I was addicted for a little bit. And pretty good stuff, right? And and so I would go to these things, and you would have these like 2-hour meditations, and you get in this crazy vibration state. You know that vibe? When you're in that kundalini's moving and everything. With this thing, I'm in there in like 3 to 5 minutes. It's like the wildest thing, okay? But that is attuning you to your divine plan so you can remember who you are, all right? And then you've got the 7th dimension. How many times does 7 show up across our world today, if you think about it, okay? You've got 7 chakras. You've got 7 days of creation. You've got 7 continents. You've got 7 oceans. You've got 7 body systems. I can keep going on and on and on. That 7 is a code to help us remember how to bridge ourselves from self, I, into this we state. When we understand how to work with the 7 hermetic principles, the 7 laws of the universe, and break those things down, all of a sudden you translate yourself into this we dimension. And that's the 8th dimension. When you're in the 8th dimension, has anybody seen X-Men when Professor X goes into Cerebro and he's like seeing everybody through everything? I've had some hell of a mushroom journeys, and that's like kind of what it's like. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. That's that we dimension, where you just start seeing stuff, and you're like, okay, I see myself through my eyes and your eyes, and I am you talking to you, and you are me looking at me, and this is like this very wild experience when you really can see it that way. And then the 9th dimension is the divine plan for the all. So this is why like 6 and 9 inverse each other, you know, and within that space, this is like God's plan, the one mind's plan for everything. And once we understand that, we can see how unity works together. So you understand everything from these 9 dimensions. So now when you see these numbers show up, look at the ones that are 3, 6, and 9. You have to understand the depth of yourself. You have to understand what your plan, your divine plan looks like, and understand the divine plan for the all. That's just isness, right? That's a stillness that you're having. That's an invitation of stillness. And then these are the balancing acts. Okay, well, shoot, I really got to initiate something, and I got to make sure it's the right thing that I'm supposed to be doing tied to my plan. But if I don't know my plan, I'm going to start doing some stuff that might be a little bit out of whack. If I don't know how to integrate this, integration is everything. I mean, you go to like, remember the first time I did ayahuasca, and I got on a plane the next day, and it was like my whole world was upside down for a little while because I didn't integrate that at all. And that's an example of it, but real integration, I know, right? Rookie mistake. But real integration is when you set an intention in the world and you integrate that with all your might. If we think about the story of Christ, that was a hell of an integration. Right? I mean, seriously, like he stood for it, and I was like, I'm going to be on a cross. Let's do this thing. All the way to death, to resurrection. I mean, it was a hell of an integration, and it lasts. I mean, it's still going 2,000 years later. I mean, it's pretty powerful, that story. And religion, I love religion from what it can teach us. There's so many codes inside of it. When we get on our spiritual journey, we often throw it away. I did immediately. I was like, oh, I can't be right. And then I start to see a lot of truth inside of it. And I'm like, oh, there's actually a lot of really beautiful things in this when you learn how to integrate it. So none of this that we have created for ourselves is to throw away. You know, even the darkness that we've been judging for a long time. Okay? So once we have all of these different understandings, then now you understand when the angel numbers show up, okay, what am I supposed to do with that? When I see the number 2, like you start to really read the code that's outside of you, and it gets a little wild. So what I then did is, I even tattooed this on my hand. That's how committed I was to this. I'll show you here in a second. This concept. But this is how 3, 6, and 9 come together. So I'm going to walk over here for a second. It's a bright light. there was a philosopher's stone, if you guys know what that is. The philosopher's stone has a triangle, a circle, actually I have it on this arm, and a square, okay, all together. And they were like, this is a tool for alchemy. Something was always wrong with it to me because it didn't actually take the concept of femininity and do anything with it, which is this upside down triangle. This is the vessel, this is the receivership, okay? Can everybody see this? Okay, all right, I'm like, I might be in the way. And then the right side up is the masculine trinity. So we have these trinities in our life that help us like bring reality together. In the Hermetics, I call them the isness of creation. So you have at the top of this mentalism, okay, up here, you have correspondence, and then you have vibration. And that happens in a masculine format, that happens in a feminine format, okay? And so this code, this key helps us unlock something, but if you don't have a balanced reality that sits inside of that, then you're a little bit off. If you don't have this balanced reality, you can't even connect with your mind, and that sits inside of here, and then you can't even get connected with the one mind. So all of these different constructs work together, okay, for us to be able to then create, one click, this thing, okay? So I evolved this concept of the philosopher's stone to being this, that has all of the Hermetic principles that live inside of it, how they balance themselves out, because even when I took those laws, something was off, but then you have the Kabbalah and other books, and then they have this on the cover, but like how do these frameworks live inside of it? And it was always something that was an extreme challenge, and I kept diagramming it, and it was never something of balance. So created this thing of balance, which this is your mind, this is the all mind, and then everything else is this balanced reality. There's something that I ran into in this really interesting book called The Secrets of the Illuminati, where they talk about this Telios framework. Have anybody heard of Telios before? Okay, it's like this Greek word for perfection. Inside of Telios, it always expands in the concepts of 3, 6, 9. So then that was like, okay, well that means something as well. And if you take the Fibonacci and work it in the Telios framework, it actually creates a perfect circle. They actually start to cycle themselves together. It's I have a video about it. I think it's coming up here. Couldn't play this for some reason. Damn it. Okay. I was supposed to play. Nonetheless, I will send it. Well, I don't know if I can send it. We'll figure it out at some point. But in the video, I actually have it to where it shows specifically what that Telios framework looks like. Okay. And maybe I can back out and go back into it in a second here. Okay. But what it is it's the Telios is the Trinity expanded, right? It's this right side up and upside down. It means wholeness, fulfillment, perfection, alignment. And this symbol to me is what self-love looks like. Okay, this symbol to me is when I understand how to manage my mentalism. I understand the feminine version of that. I understand how to hold myself in an aspect of correspondent, as above, so below, as I do one thing, I do all things. I understand truly how to manage my vibration, right? And see the world outside of me with a really beautiful balance so that, in essence, I know, how anybody in this room could possibly be, and then resonate with that so that we're actually merging with each other, and it becomes a really beautiful process of creation, okay? And this is the harmonization of being. Well, so, is everybody familiar with the Hermetic principles? Yeah? Do I need to go down this road again? Because I can. But in the Hermetic principles, they have a specific role, okay? What I call there's 3 principles of business. I won't drill them down, but that 3, remember that 3, because those are the things that if you do those 3 things over and over again and you manage them, you start to understand and unlock the depth of yourself, okay? And there's a feminine version of this and a masculine version of this, and I'll walk you through here in just a second. And then there's also these growing up. So there's growing up and waking up. There's Ken Wilber talks about this thing. And the Hermetic principles help us actually manage this process of growing up and waking up. Okay? And growing up is when you go through religion. There's like your myth and mysticism and ethnography and like, oh, I'm better than you, and we're challenging each other and all this other stuff. And at some point you see all religion. You're like, oh, it's all unified. It's all one thing. Okay? And it's an intellectual way of seeing the world as far as it pertains to all of this doctrine, religious teachings, what's been handed off to us, and being able to see that in a very specific way. When you understand these Hermetics, you start to see the code across all of religion, and you start to interweave it all together. It's a really beautiful thing, because it always, all the number 7, and the number 6, and 3s, and so you start to see how that math starts to work itself out. So what I'm going to do now is how we take ourself and then we project that to this concept of the all. So it's how the one mind works in time and space. All right? So this is this model, all right, of yourself, self-love. This is how we show up. Now there's this astrology thing, this chart, okay? And in that astrology chart, what you're going to see here is what I started to do. I'm going to go back over here to the bright light again and make it hot on my head. But what I ended up doing is I took each one of the signs, and then I said, okay, well, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then I broke that down to the digital root, and then all of a sudden you get 1, 2, 3 again, right? So that was cool. And I was like, all right, well, that's interesting. And why is it only 1, 2, and 3 that sit above this equator, and what does that mean, right? And then if I said, okay, well, if I took the sequential numbers that we talked about before, and some of you are late, but I'll maybe bring it back to you here in a second because this might be confusing, but we'll get there. If you take the 1, 2, and 3, and you always set the middle number, what that's doing is it's taking your past, present, future, you add those up, and you get a number 6. Every time you add those up, you get, at the top of this, you get 6s in this quadrant, which I'm going to break that down in a minute, which is like really wild when you understand what that is. And then it's always 3, 6, 9 that sits on the peripheral of this astrology chart, right? And so now what you understand is like, okay, I've got this 3, 6, 9 that's always there, but then I've got these other numbers that sit inside of it. I have a specific thing I'm supposed to do with those numbers, but what am I supposed to do with it? And I'm going to show you here in a second. It's like, once I saw this, it gave me a bunch of chills. And I was like, oh, okay, let me start practicing what this looks like. So then you pull those over the top of each other, and then what ends up happening is that what the zodiac does is it works as this anchor of time that allows us to be able to look at the one mind's intention at any point of the astrology chart or at any point of the zodiac months of the year, because we have this thing called time. I do have videos where I say time doesn't exist because it kind of doesn't, but it does at the same point, and we have to have this framework of how to resonate with this love that's happening outside of us. So the divine, the one mind, created this thing called time for us to harmonize with. How can we understand the code of time? And if the code of time is only structured off the concept in the divine mind's eye as 3, 6, and 9, but in our mind as the numbers 1 through 9, then we have to figure out how those things merge together. Does that make sense? All right. So I'm going to give you an example of how this works. Okay? So let's take Capricorn. Capricorn is a 1. It's a sign of initiation, all right? The divine plan alignment for that is when what it does is you've got the number 6 here, that when you have 6, you're in balance and you'll receive the divine plan intended for you. So when I actually start to initiate something in this window of time, if I do that in stillness, I will receive information the divine plan intended for me. So in that month, I should be initiating like crazy in order to receive information so that now all of a sudden I'm getting this channeling. It could be channeling, it could be download, it could be all of a sudden somebody just comes up to you and keeps telling you the same thing over and over again. Okay? You might be in a relationship and it's like, okay, you are getting so many signs this month because you're initiating. Okay, now if you're trying to integrate in a time where you're supposed to be initiating, it's going to be upside down, and most of us do this efforting thing where we take, well, I'm a Gemini, so I need to be doing this all the time, and I'm going to act like this over here, and all of a sudden I'm doing something that's completely out of balance. So now I have to understand what the frequency is of the space-time of my reality and the space-time of divine's reality, and then merge those things together based on what's showing up in my life. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. I'll do Aquarius now, okay? All right. Yeah, I know. So Aquarius, all right, is a 2. What that means is as an Aquarius, or in that Aquarius season, I should be integrating. I should be taking something that has happened, the initiation of something in my life that I did before, and if I didn't initiate, it's okay. I just need to take what I'm witnessing around me and then start to integrate it in a space of stillness. Then what happens is in order for me to now take this integration and to merge with the field of oneness, okay, because the field of oneness is this big circle outside of me, all right? I now have to act and do, what'll happen is there's the number 6 that's happening that's going to be giving me information about the divine plan intended for me. So what you'll start to get is like your purpose statement, what's happening in your life will start to show up in these seasons. And if you know anything about the 12 days of Christmas, the summer, the winter equinox, the earth being, the physical aspect of the earth being more asleep is the winter, the soul of the earth is more awake. Like the Mother Earth is screaming at us, okay, energetically in this season of time. And most of us aren't listening because we're like, you know, going crazy with Christmas and everything else. Nothing wrong with Christmas, you know, and trying to holiday and like doing all of this external efforting, and we're not listening to the instructions of the earth. And it gives us literally 4 months of getting our stuff together, to hearing what that divine information is. And we've got a whole other little bit of a season right here. What's even crazier is you're going to see how this works, like for Easter, which is even wilder, okay? So I'll even jump to that one. So Aries is a place of presence and stillness. It's surrender and depth of time into the presence and stillness. When in balance, we will receive physical healing and resurrect physical identity, our physical reality. So when we get 3, okay, we get in balance with our physical life, our purpose, our self, okay? And then at which point, we receive physical healing and we resurrect our physical reality.
What's 3?
So
I mean, I see the number there. What is
all right, let me go back up here. So 3 is third dimension. Yeah. So those are the dimensions. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, great question. So 3, whenever you see these dimensions here, and you see them show up in the astrology chart, this is your code to remember what the instructions you're supposed to do inside of that chart. Okay? So in that season of, so look at 4 and look at 3.
that we have to look at, or a month, or I mean,
It's a window of time. It's through the astrology, through the signs that show up. So every season, every month has this, well, not month, but every window has a door. And that's, your Gemini door, your Aquarius door, your Sagittarius door, whatever's door. And those doors have a very specific frequency that are tied to these dimensional understandings around what you're supposed to do in each one of those. And you have 9 doors to walk through. Okay, there aren't 12, there's 9, because some of them repeat themselves. So I'm going to go back forward. All right, so now you see it here. You have 1 through 9, and then 1 through 3 again. These are all your dimensions and how we're supposed to take this energy from those other realms, the dimensional analysis I was showing you, and be able to say, okay, in my physical time and space as Sean, my world is at a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? This is how we deal with the world. How the divine deals with the world is only in the construct of 3, 6, and 9. Okay? Does that make sense? So with the divine dealing with the world, it's like, okay, the energy of the divine is at I'm going to go back here to the Easter thing, is at a 3 in this window in Aries that's right sitting at this spring solstice, so spring equinox, right? Equinox, yeah. And at a 4, we just saw before, is that's when I have presence and stillness, and there's a depth of time because there's no past, present, or there's no past or future. I'm supposed to be here now. And then at which point I'm going to have a 3, which is an understanding of depth. And this is when I have a physical resurrection of my life. So this code, like, very much so corresponds with the concept of the death and resurrection of Christ. That make sense? Okay.
So the person goes through some sort of rebirth?
Rebirth, yeah.
Because we go through many of them.
Yeah. And that's a whole season for you to have presence, stillness. Okay? And then it goes into, okay, well then what is the divine going to do for me when this happens? When I have presence and stillness, I'm going to be rewarded with resurrection, rejuvenation, that type of thing. And it just goes round and round. And there's only 3 things, that's the Trinity, that the divine is always going to do for you. Give you your purpose, give you the purpose for the all, and then also make sure that you have like this recharging. So your seasons of recharging are going to be your Aries and Libra season. Right, your seasons, and it's really interesting how they just like literally cross each other, right? And then the 9s are going to be the season where you have this like massive download of like the plan for the all that you can take into those different seasons and bring about. And you got all these chances. You literally have 6 chances inside of the year to figure yourself out.
So it's similar to like I said, everyone has different seasons
Yeah.
in their life based on where they're at.
Yeah,
So this is kind of a little bit about that.
it's a little bit about that. Yeah.
It correlates to, where you're at in your life. They say sometimes you're planting seeds, sometimes you're waiting for the seeds.
Yeah.
At different parts of your own personal growth.
So the personal side of it is what's happening. Inside of that circle is the personal. And then you even have your own imprint that you got to deal with. So, like, for instance, I'm a Gemini, right? I have my own shit I got to deal with, right? Because, you know, everybody runs away from me. But, but, but if you, you know, but for me, I've got to deal with that and then still that, you know, and like the instructions I've been getting is like, hey, like tap into your Virgo, right? Because like you need to not be just all over the place and be very specific in how you execute in life. So that's been coming up. That was like Robert Grant and I went through this together. And then I'm like, okay, well, if I'm that's my challenge here, but then I can also understand how to flow through life based on the way that time and space has created itself, then my life becomes really easy, okay? Because I know that in certain seasons, all I got to do is merge with the divine, like merge with the energetic signature of the earth, which is the internal framework, and then I merge with the external signature of the divine, and now those two things are connecting with each other, and that's the 369 key that Tesla might have been on some other shit, but you know, it could have, to me, that makes a lot of sense when you mathematically start to pull it together.
You're like, you're mastering your own energy through your vibration and frequency.
Exactly.
Which is what you're saying, it's like the outer part is like the key that unlocks those three numbers, basically where you're vibrating in your frequency, your energy's at.
Right, right. So
That's the alignment.
yeah, so you have your own energy, you've got the space-time energy, and then you've got this divine one-mind energy. That's the Trinity, right? You think about the laws, the mentalism, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. You have yourself, right, which is your energy. You've got this other earthly energy, which is the mother, this other frequency, and then you've got the one mind. We can call it the Father, Mother, whatever you want to call it. I'm not getting gender specific about it, but, you know, okay?
Very nice.
All right, absolutely. All right, so now let's map this to, we're kind of talking about this. So you have what's called the masculine trinity. Sure. Yeah, 100%, yeah. Yeah, I'm totally, 100%. I will make sure you have the presentation. Yeah, we'll figure out a way to get it. I'll put it online or you guys follow me, yeah? Maybe you follow me, then I'll make sure it's a post that's up, all right? You've got a feminine trinity, okay, and we map this to Mother Mary, Holy Spirit, and then this daughter, we can call it Mary Magdalene energy, but these are just avatars, and people are like, don't say Mary, but I'm like, okay, but it's there, okay, take it. Then you've got this balanced quadrinity, okay, and the balanced quadrinity, apparently didn't finish this slide with an image, but is how the karma, polarity, rhythm, and gender hold themselves. Now, what's going to be wild is when I show you how these things come together inside of the tree of life and the Kabbalah, it's kind of wild, okay? So you have these three wise men, these three intuitive women, and this balanced trinity that piece together and look like this, okay? And now you're starting to see how this is mapping into this whole concept of the tree of life, all right? Above, there's this line called the Aleph line, okay? And that Aleph line is the line that splits heaven and earth. You have masculine, 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 which is the triangle right side up, okay? And then you have a masculine vibration that lives in the earthly realm, okay? You have a feminine vibration that lives in the heavenly realm, if we wanted to call it that, okay? And then you have, what actually makes this earth work is this feminine mentalism and feminine correspondence that we don't ever talk about, okay? And once we understand this, which is like the story that's, you know, I mean, we called that a whore at some point. You know, this one, we like homage it, but we don't really know what to like do with it. We don't know what that is. We just called it a Holy Spirit and took the gender out of it, okay? And this is, once we understand how to pull this together within the tree of life, you actually see how it starts to map itself together and how these things hold themselves in a foundation that when you can connect all of that, so I mean, a lot of, when I studied with this rabbi for like 8 months, and he's from Israel, and he was teaching me this stuff, and I'm like, okay, this has got to be an easier way. Like, I mean, seriously, like this, this Sefer Yetzirah and like all the, you know, all these, you know, Baal, whatever, you know, I was just like, this is way too much. So I started to map this around and figure out, okay, there's all of these things start to work together, and candidly, this is just the hermetics that are bridged inside of this tree of life. And once I understand those hermetics and I can see how they work, I can start to bring that divine light literally into the vessel of self. Does this make sense? Yeah. All right. So then you got 12 parts of the tree of life. all right, with these numbers. Okay, the numbers show up again where you've got wisdom, you've got loving kindness, and the 9, you've got victory. And the way that all of this starts to map itself, like what generally happens, they say, well, there's 10 P's, there's 10 Sphero. But you've got this Ein Sof, which is just like this divine one mind, right? You've got sovereignty as Malchut, which sits down here at the bottom. We kind of forget this thing called dot that nobody really like puts into the tree of life all the time, but that's knowledge. And the way that this works, which is interesting about the concept of the number 7, if I take this and I do the number 7, and so say the light comes in, and I do number 7 here, 7, and then 7, I literally have 3 sevens, which is, once again, you're now back at this 777 thing, angel number. So that's how the energy moves. So the energy moves when light comes in, it actually has to go through the vessel. The left side is feminine. So it has to go through the vessel of the feminine. We have to receive the light. Then it actually has to go through the process of integrating into wisdom. So now I have to integrate that, which is the masculine side. And once we have these two things, I have a knowing. There's something I know that I didn't know before. So if you just do these things here, which is the initiation and the integration, 1 and 2, you get third dimensional, you know yourself, and then you have that depth. Once again, we're at that 1, 2, 3 we talked about. Are you with me? All right. So then at which point, the feminine, we always think, well, I got to be like the really strong guy, right? But the feminine is the ability to hold and receive as the vessel itself. If I got a really weak paper cup and I dump a bunch of water in it, the water is just going to tear up. So I have to have a vessel strong enough to receive all of this knowledge that I have, and then it passes over here into me being loving and kindness, and that's what I give out to the world. That's the masculine. Okay, so I have to give that out. And then what it does is it then moves through here into beauty. I got covered up because I don't have a great graphics thing, and then it comes down here into empathy. And the empathy is, I used to be afraid of this. I used to talk to my son. He's 16, and I'd be like, don't be empathetic. Okay, just be compassionate. And I didn't realize how much power there is in empathy, of being able to take in everything and then use it as a tool of alchemy because of my state of awareness and strength to be able to turn that into what's called victory. And victory isn't I beat somebody. Victory means that I actually had the ability to like win for everybody. Everybody won. Okay? We use the story of Christ. Everybody won. Okay? Even though people don't think sometimes, but everybody won. And then that sets a foundation. Then that foundation is now safe enough for the light to actually channel into yourself, into the vessel of humanity. This is how we move through humanity. This is how we change the world. All right?
What do you mean by correspondence?
So the correspondence is the as above, so below. Okay? So as above, what you have here is you have feminine mentalism, that when it's connecting with in harmony vibration of masculine, it actually creates a below feminine vessel that births the light into our physical reality. If this is broken, then the light can't birth into our physical reality. All right, so we have to make sure that we honor the feminine correspondence. If I were to say that what this is every female here on this planet, is the feminine correspondence. The ability to have that vessel and that receivership and feel safe enough. And look at the things that you have to have in order for that to happen. You have to have a masculine vibration that isn't all whacked out, that actually is somewhat empathetic and touching victory. And you also have to have a safe foundation for that light to move through. And if the feminine avatar of our world does not feel safe or foundationally sound, we are not moving that light into this vessel of our creation. Female mentalism, that's the Mother Mary energy. Okay? There's a story that has not been told at all. We have no idea what this looks like. And it's time for that story to be told. I have no idea what it is, candidly. Okay, but I know that it's there because these shapes just keep showing up. We kind of know what that is, but they kind of, dogma-wise, they shat all over this. But reality, this nobody knows what that is. And there's some books out there. And what I feel like is happening now is there's a lot of wise sages, women coming forward, telling these stories, and for the longest time they would be burned at the stake. For the longest time they would be shut away. And so now is the time for that feminine story to be told. And it's not going to be based on any ancient anything because all the papyruses that have been stuck somewhere, there's no story about it. So we have to tell that story. Yes.
The Ethiopian Bible.
Yes.
It says that Adam was made from the dust of 4 areas of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
which is a vibration of high.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's an Ethiopian Bible.
it is. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the Gnostics, Zoroastrianism. There's a lot of stuff in there, but like it's like that gets discounted because it didn't have a good marketing strategy, right?
So they, yeah, they just got some of the.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we're a product of really good marketing, okay, at this point, which so we can shift that. And that's where we're going, of being able to tell that story differently. All right? So this goes from this bridge, what I call this tree of life is wisdom. Truly understanding how the frequency moves through us. Okay? And thank God for what I would call, Judaism that left this key code for us to be able to understand how that energy moves. What that does is we take all of this, and now I've got mentalism, I've got karma, right? Whatever it is. I've got all these pieces that I can put into this framework, which is my self-love key. This is my circuit of self-love. All right? So now I can use that circuit of self-love in order to now, if I were to take a symbol, think about Doctor Strange, right? Who does this thing. Kind of looks like that, honestly. All right? And then I go from this concept of self-love, okay, into knowing. That knowing is now mapping that self-love aspect over this whole concept of this 369. And then I move from that into this whole concept of this 231 gate. So 2 plus 3 plus 1 is 6, okay? And that's what you'll see here in a second, is this 231 gate literally shows up right here around Christmas time, okay? Which is nuts. And what you see, this thing over here on the right, I'll explain what it is it's a practice that a lot of Kabbalists used to do, and they still do it, where they wrap this ring mentally around their head and they say the Hebrew alphabet, and they'll just go like Aleph Bet, Aleph No, Aleph, and then they just go over and over and over again, and it creates a reality for them, and they're able to now project that out, okay? It is not fun. I've tried it. And then what happens is once you have this knowing, you now can create. And it's interesting how that looks just like the eye. Because then the eye is projecting and creating our reality. Your perception, but your ability. Once you have all these other things in place, you literally, everything you see is your creation. And you know what's coming before it happens. All right? It's a very, very powerful process. So now the thing is, how do we do this? So there's a thing called the 231 gate in this book called, I'm going to tell you also, this is the most boring book to read. Has anybody read this? No? I mean, give it a shot. It took me like 5 months because I just kept falling asleep. But they say the information from a oral tradition dates back over 2,000 years, okay, and probably a little bit before. They say that it was channeled from Abraham, and nobody can prove that, but that's what they say. And so it talks about how the universe was created, how our world was created, the math behind it. It shows the planetary alignment. It shows all this other stuff. It takes this whole thing of how the combination of the 22 Hebrew letters creates this blueprint of creation. And these letter pairings, once they actually go through the structural pathway, this is the design you get when you do this over and over again, which just looks like the eye, which is wild. Okay? I won't go any further into this. I'm just going to repeat myself. But you see that gate of 231 shows up only one time inside of this. And this is the gate that when we understand that 231, that if we set an intention, we could do it any time of year, but we set an intention in this window, it's way more powerful. Okay? If you follow me, I had this whole thing around the 12 days of Christmas, that if you can set the intention here, you start to literally have 3 months where you can pull in your divine plan of self. You can do this across the numbers 3, 1, and 2, understanding the depth of yourself, being able to then start that initiation, integrate, and then you do it again, and then you go through the process. Okay? So, how do we do this every single day? If I were to, I know, right? If I were to do this every single day, there's different ways to do it, but it takes about 28 minutes to do the Aleph thing, right? The actual 231 Hebrew recital. And over time, you get pretty good at it, right? But it's still a thing. It's almost, I remember when I started doing, I was out here and I started going to the Buddhist temple, and I was saying Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, and I was doing the entire chanting and everything like that. I had no idea what I was saying, okay? So I'm like, okay, this is cool, it feels good, you know, and some great things are happening in my life, but I'm not able to actually cast the reel and hit the fish. It was just like, I'm just now, abundant things are kind of happening, but I don't know why they're happening, and then I'm now dependent on this process. And so instead of me being dependent on the process, I started figuring out ways of taking that and turning it into something else. So what's interesting about the Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, if you do it for, I think, 7 minutes, a little over 7.5 minutes, you say it 231 times, okay? All right. You do this other thing, this process, it takes you about 28 minutes to go through it. So what I ended up doing, all right, hold on a second. This isn't like gonna pull up all my email, isn't it, if I like show this thing? Let me see if I can. All right, I'm gonna play the video. Come on. Ah, it's because I'm not on the internet. Tech issues. No, yeah, we're gonna do that. Hold on, I got it. I'm just gonna get on the phone here. Yeah. I'm mildly technical. All right. Thank you guys for being patient with me. There it is. We're just gonna go here. And then we'll go back to the other thing. Everybody having a good expo? As we're waiting, I'm just filling space here. And there we go. All right, so this is the process-ish.
This is our sixth dimensional portal confirmation for our full, abundant flow. As we start, take these 5 initial steps. Ground yourself. Sit or stand with your spine aligned and feet connected to the earth. Listen and repeat this affirmation 231 times. Each repetition, feel the energy.
I'm gonna pause you a second. This affirmation's way too long. This will take you like 5 hours. So I created another one, just FYI, all right? But just letting you know. Come on.
Expanding in all directions, within and without. Visualize a golden light enveloping your entire body, connecting the past, present, and future into a singular flow of infinite abundance. As this energy moves through you, you will move with intention. You might dance, you might sway, or just breathe deeply, letting your body become the portal for the orchestration of full abundance. And take inspired action. Say yes to aligned opportunities. Trust and know in the signs, and act with certainty without hesitation. Let's begin. We attune to the infinite current of creation, where love, wealth, vitality, and wisdom move effortlessly within us. We dissolve all resistance, embracing divine orchestration as our highest truth. Our thoughts, words, and deeds pulse in rhythm with limitless flow. We are the architects of miracles, the vessels of divine abundance, and the embodiment of overflowing prosperity in all realms of existence. Thank you, and I love you.
So I did do this 231 times, and I will say it was like a very big check came. So it was nuts. What's that?
Big what?
Big check. Really, really big check. About $250,000 of a check. Okay, so it was wow, that was kind of nuts, and it wasn't supposed to come at any point, right? And now another one. Like, so this, I'm not saying that this is the cause of it. What I'm saying is that what I was able to now do inside of me by having the discipline to then create a process created something different. And every single one of us, okay? Because I'm going to tell you right now, the odds for me being able to do that based on where my life has been is extremely low.
So also what you did with that affirmation is set an intention and then match the vibration,
Yeah.
frequency
Yeah. And so, I mean, yeah, it starts out as a mental process. And I always use the concept of a baby walking in the beginning. Like we as adults, we get real, we're like, oh, it should happen right now. But when we're doing this stuff, even, I mean, for any of us, this is like a baby walking. You're going to knock your head, you're going to fall over, you're going to trip, you're going to have all kind of problems. You're just going to fail. But you're going to get up with excitement. I mean, think about it. If we had the courage of a baby in the things that we're exploring in our spirituality, it'd be pretty cool, right? I mean, the babies are like super wise. They just get up and start walking again, all right? We take it for granted because we figured it out, but they just keep doing it, and they keep doing it, and they're adventurous about it. They might cry a little bit because they bump their head, and they get up and they keep trying because they know that that's what they need to do in order to survive, in order to have an abundant life. And yet we sit here and we're like, the meditation was bad. I mean, yeah, great, like keep it moving. And you might not have it happen, but once you do it enough times, okay, you start to change your life. I mean, Tony Robbins has a whole thing, you know, not everybody's a huge Tony Robbins fan, but when his whole transformation happened to where he became the Tony Robbins of Tony Robbins, it was when he used to like run to work every day and just repeat this thing over and over again, and he just tuned himself differently, and all of a sudden he's like, he's now this guy. Every single one of us, I mean, he was like, what, a janitor, I think, or something? Like, I mean, every single one of us has this. I mean, I was homeless 12 years ago, you know, and I should not be standing in front of you at all. And this, I mean, what I know for a fact, and this is the wildest thing about spirituality, you can't see it. It's the sense you can't see, but it's the sense that creates everything. And so when we not forget about the senses, we have to honor the senses. We have the computer here, there's all this other stuff, but that's the reality we create. It's from the inside, and it can be as beautiful or ugly as you want it to be. And I'm going to go back over here.
So, I guess I'm missing something, I'm sorry.
Keep going, talk to me.
So how do I get to that? Like, how, with the astrology, I guess I'm missing a connection.
This is a
I get the affirmation, I get you're supposed to be in the 360, you know, it's all of that, but I'm not understanding how
How you get there? How you start?
do I start?
All right, let me ask you a question. What is your purpose in life? Yeah,
Well, to serve others,
give me something more specific. I mean, if that's the case, then you mean you could go through this room handing out, you know, chewing gum, and that's serving others, and then you're in your purpose, right?
life coach is what.
Okay, life coach, and then in doing that, what are you looking to see change? What do you?
Well, my title is Intuitive Transformational Life Coach, so
Okay.
basically a transformation every month.
Okay, I love it. And have you done all of that inside of you?
Absolutely.
100%. You've done the work. Okay, so you have a stillness in you and a knowing in you that every time you come around, you emanate that out without hesitation, and you don't hesitate in anything that you do. Well,
I mean, like right now, I'm actually starting my business in June, and I'm nervous as hell.
okay.
Here you go.
Okay, so that nervousness is a hesitation, right?
Right.
Okay, and that hesitation, it's the same hesitation, I'm going to tell you right now, that the divine had when the divine created the universe, when it asked itself the question of what it was. Okay? So I think God is perfect, it got it all right, and it did, because it eliminated the whole concept of time and then wrapped this thing around, and then all of a sudden we're here, and we're here to love it back. We're here to take all of the craziness and then see it all as love and all as harmony, as vibration, as oneness, right? So now you're in a position right now where every time you hesitate, you fracture your reality. Your nervousness is a fracturing of reality. And the beautiful thing about it is it's going to be okay because we see how God did it. Okay? So now what you have to start doing, and to start the process for yourself, because you know your purpose, you know your stillness, is that you have to start moving into a space to where you no longer hesitate. That nervousness is a choice, and that nervousness is a memory of some trauma pattern that you have to interrupt and still, because that's the only thing that keeps you nervous. That's the wisdom of the baby.
I know, breathe.
Right? That's the wisdom of the baby, because the baby forgets that it forgot how to walk, and it keeps walking, right? And it becomes a miracle. Jesus walking on water, like, I can do this because I didn't think that I couldn't, right? And that's what you have to do. That's how you start. And then after that, I can't tell you, because it's all just comes through you, okay? But then what happens is as a consciousness and a oneness, we all unite. Because when we start vibrating this way, we find each other. And when we find each other, we start moving as this different oneness, and then that's when all of the illusion starts to change, and then we save this planet. Okay, we start to translate through different dimensions. We're at fifth dimensional beings. There is no more space, time, or judgment. I candidly think, aliens are probably just more evolved versions of ourselves running around here. We're helping us to remember who we are. But, or extraterrestrials, UVs, I got to get the name right. Stephen Greer in here, he'd kick me in the ass, but it's all good. So I also created this, you can scan this six-dimensional creation and prediction AI tool, okay? I will also put this, but you guys get it first. You can go in there and play around with it. It has a couple of prompts that you can ask. And what it'll do is it'll take that 231 gate framework, and it'll give you a very specific mantra, like, hey, I want my relationship to be better. It'll give you a very short statement you can say in about 7 minutes, not 2 hours. And so you can start playing around with it and seeing how those things show up in your life, okay? It'll also give you a couple of like predictions. You'll be like, hey, what's gonna happen next month in the world in global crisis? What are gonna be abundant things that are gonna take place? And they're not proximate. There's a difference between underlying causes and proximate predictions. Do you guys know what those are? Okay, so the underlying causes are like there's this deep thing that's happening in the world, and it creates these, and proximate is like exactly what happened. So it's like, there's this energy that's coming around that the 231 gates will like predict of what's happening. And it's kind of obvious sometimes, but some of us don't pay attention to it. And then there's like, oh, okay, well now we're in like a trade war with Mexico. That's the proximate thing. The underlying cause is there's some other energy that is here that will create these outcomes. And it might give you a lean into some proximate predictions. But what it does is once you start to do this 231 thing, you'll probably stop looking for the negative stuff, quote unquote negative stuff, or the stuff that's like disharmonious, and you'll start looking for the things of harmony. And then what you'll do is in these mantras that you have, or these affirmations, and all the affirmations that I do, they are we state affirmations. They're not I state affirmations, so it's like saying it from a state of we, because you have a past, present, future version of yourself, everybody in the room, everybody in your life, so you say it from we. You unify everything, and you really have to be in integrity of that, because it's not like, I'm gonna do this, and then you just run off in the woods somewhere. Like you really are saying it for the all. And, but yeah, that's what you'll get out of this one. And then there is the daily code activation. So this is something that I also went through the process of mapping. If any of you have my book, there's a whole process. I have an app inside of the book that actually you just go into, you're really singing over there, I love it. We should all just go over there and get involved in that frequency. But what I did is I took the 7 days of the week, I mapped them to the chakras, I mapped them to the colors, I mapped them to a healing frequency, a very specific message for yourself, and we have those broken down in the book as well as the app. Then I took the Hermetic laws and mapped those, the meaning and the action that you take. Each day has a very specific action, a way of you're giving, you're receiving, you're in balance, you're kind of like being still. And if you use this is a micro version of the actual larger calendar of the zodiac and the astrology chart we were talking about. This is like kind of very specific action steps that you can take in order to be like, hey, on Sunday, I really need to think about my stillness. I need to root myself. I need to look at things through the lens of, I'm gonna like visualize red, I'm gonna listen to this healing frequency. I now have this thing. If you guys have your phone, go to zodiac.fm, and I'm gonna give you this for free, because it's like a $250 deal, okay? Yeah. Zodiac.fm. And it's the code, I think there's enough in this room, and if there's not, shoot me a message. It's abundance 777 is the coupon code. It'll have you put in your credit card, make sure you apply the code or you're gonna get charged. Zodiac.fm, yeah. Yeah, so if you listen to that frequency versus yours, it'll actually attune you to your personal frequency of your birth chart of the day that you were born. And then at which point, it literally takes the day, time, space, like location, and then maps that, okay? My email? I'll have it at the end here, so you'll get it. Yeah, absolutely. And so, but if you don't want to do that, you can align with these, but you see how those also do 369 as well, okay? And then this is the book with the app if you guys want to do that. But not here to sell books, but if you go on my Instagram and get it if you want to. Abundance 777. I love what's going on next door. Seriously. It's amazing. I'm gonna add that to my speeches. I'm gonna do it, just fully. Has anybody ever been to a Hans Zimmer concert? Dude, the most bananas thing. If he's ever in your town, it's a full spaceship. Okay, seriously. Like, I have never seen anything like this in my life. And you think he's like the movie guy, but I mean, these people are moving like I have never seen. And the reason I bring that up is because there's this music playing next door. Somebody's doing that, but it was just magical. Like, this is how the future is going to be. Like that, the way he produced. And there's another thing I came out of it where I was, life should be you just balling out, having fun, okay, living your best life all the time, just exploring and enjoying and playing and doing the whole thing, okay? And so, that's why I love what's happening next door, This is my kind of version of fun, I'm just a fucking nerd, okay? But it's just be you and have a freaking blast. Your nervousness stops you from having a blast, right? Yeah, just play and enjoy, and that's how we're supposed to be. So, you're welcome. So, what have we unlocked? All right, this stillness is a gateway to creation. All right, we can ask questions. We have a little bit of time here. Master the power of invitation through receivership and harmonic alignment, understanding the code of ourself. We're all about that. You got Gene Keys, Human Design, Zodiac.fm, whatever it might be. That in itself is, your stuff, right? You kind of know your frequency. What we get thrown off is the frequency outside of us. This earth that was being created for us to exist in, we don't get that. That's what astrology teaches you, is how to read that code. How to read what's happening in that monthly time and space, and also how to turn back around and say, you know what, let me look at the daily aspect of everything that's happening, and if I can understand that, I can read the code of my existence. I don't have to be so lost. I can retune myself. Well, shit, Sunday's a root day, red day. Let me just kind of balance myself around that. Let me do something that I'm creating for the start of my week, and then let me get in masculine action, okay? And every one of these is tied to the Saturn, the planetary alignments and all this other stuff, but once you can do that harmonic alignment, and then you can see the 369 alignment from the divine, because divine, literally, the one mind plays in 369 numbers. And it gives us the other stuff to play with, okay? And the other stuff to resonate with, but it all maps itself back to that. Okay? Everybody still with me? That makes sense? Okay. So now we understand how to work it in action, and I will make sure you guys have this, all right? We also understand how to bridge dimensions in our daily life. So we understand the concepts around all the dimensionality. So when you start seeing specific numbers show up in your life, and I can take you back to that other slide. Anybody want to see that again, the dimension slide? Here, I'll go back up there real quick. Exactly, backward and forward. All right, this right here is your map to understanding how the code of what happens around us work, okay? So every word can be broken down into a number. Every space, every shape can be broken down. This is like the math that helps you understand how to move through time. You start seeing 1, 1, 1, get yourself to initiation, because the 1 plus 1 plus 1 gets to 3, and you will start to have a depth of self. You will go deeper within yourself, okay? You start seeing 2, 2, 2, oh, it's time for me to integrate. That 2, 2, 2 keeps showing up. I got to integrate now. Okay, I got to integrate. But when I do that, I'm going to get the divine plan for myself, God's plan. Okay, for me. If I start seeing 3, 3, 3, all right. Once I go deep within, all right. Well, then I'm going to actually understand how that all works, and I'm going to be able to work with that. And so these numbers and codes keep showing up in your life so that you can understand how to use those. All right. Now, if I see 1, 2, 3, all right. Well, that's cool too. So 1, 2, 3 starts showing up. Well, that equals 6. All right. I need to take the past, the present, and the future. So the 1, 2, 3 goes in that order of past, present, future. So in my past, I should have initiated something. So now let me use my memory mind to go back and do that initiation. In my present moment, I should be integrating. And as things start to come to me, I need to make sure that I have the depth of it. That's your 1, 2, 3. It's telling you that you need to tune into the divine plan for you, and you will receive the divine plan for you. This is the divine plan for the all, and you will receive the divine plan for the all. It's a very transcendent space to be in. Yeah, yeah. And so you are there. Whatever's happening around you, you are probably in a lot of flow at that moment. Okay, and then you need to just pay attention, and there will be synchronicities that are not the number, but the things, the shapes, the colors, and the people that allow that to keep showing up in your life, and you're like, okay, I'm in that space. I'm going to be honest with you. I have no idea what to do here, okay? I'm not going to pretend. This is a unified space of all of us figuring it out together, okay? This is not like, oh, like, hey, we're going to go off and just be ninth dimensional people alone, because you can't, okay? It's a unified way of being. We got to figure this out, okay? We're playing here. We're playing small ball, acting like we're doing this most of the time, okay? You know, we're star-seeding it at the 5th dimension, playing around here, acting like this. We don't understand ourselves and can't be present. Okay? So, yes. Yeah, so 777 is when you are walking, basically these are the laws of the universe. Okay, so once you understand that you are bridging things from self to we, you are moving beyond yourself. Okay, and then at which point, once you do that, it goes to 21. And once you move beyond yourself, you actually understand the depth of everything happening around you, the depth of self and the depth of others. Yeah.
What if you see numbers that are not in line like that?
Sequential. If you add them up and they get to 3, 6, and 9, it's a key. Okay? So there could be other versions that come in that way, but that's how the divine only works in a 3, 6, 9 framework. As far as its communication externally, and once you know that, then you can point back and you can see how to articulate it for yourself. Or the one mind, whatever you want to call it. Any other questions on that? Oh, I can show that other video since I have Wi-Fi now.
And on the app, do you need to put the credit card number,
You have to put the credit card in.
even though it says 0?
Yeah, it'll say 0, but make sure you put apply, otherwise it gets,
Okay.
you have to go to support.adzodiac.fm. It doesn't lock you into subscription. It doesn't do that. It doesn't do that at all. He just, the founder just wants to make sure that the transactions and the process is pure as far as the process is concerned. So if you have an issue, email support, you know, and you can like bash me on Instagram and I'll make sure it's fixed, okay? Here, I'll show you guys this one too now that this works.
There's an ancient concept so profound it changes everything we thought we knew about existence. It's called teleos, and it holds a secret to your divine purpose. From ancient wisdom, teleos means the fulfillment of purpose, the achievement of that which you were divinely created. It begins with 3, the divine trinity of creation itself. The father principle of mentalism, all is mind, thoughts create reality. The mother principle of vibration, all is energy, dancing, and eternal motion. And the child principle of correspondence, as above, so below, bridging heaven and earth. Through the Fibonacci sequence of creation, this trinity expands, from unity through polarity to the first harmonic of 3, then to 4, where the divine pattern grounds into form. But watch what happens next. At 6, something magical occurs. The masculine and feminine triangles of creation merge into sacred union. The divine fire meets divine water, forming the Merkaba, where giving and receiving dance in perfect balance. This is where you discover your unique place in God's plan. Then 7 emerges, where personal purpose transforms into universal wisdom. I becomes we, and your consciousness expands to embrace all the universal laws. Finally, 9, the Trinity squared, where all cycles complete and begin anew. Here, teleos achieves its ultimate expression, where your individual purpose fully aligns with your universal consciousness. This is the living mathematics of spiritual evolution itself, from Trinity to completion, from individual spark to universal flame. Thank you, and I love you. There's an ancient concept so profound.
You know, the thing about these videos, you get tired of hearing yourself talk. Seriously. No, go ahead.
So my question, Sean, is more, it's not about this, but how did you came about to want to learn that? What was your quest? What brought you to start?
Going down this path?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, do you know my story at all? No? A little bit? Yeah. Oh, what's up? Okay, sorry. What's up? Okay. So you know the story. Yeah, so when it started, I don't know, I guess it was, when I was 8 years old, I was getting these like crazy downloads, okay? And my grandmother thought I was possessed because I was drawing all these hieroglyphs and these weird things, and I was fascinated with pyramids, and that was like all of my projects in school. I'm sure we probably all have similar stories. Like, it's like, there's this thing that's calling me. And then my parents weren't doing like great, so I would go stay with them in the summer times, with my grandmother in the summer times. When I was doing this stuff, she was like, hey, you gotta get away from me, you're weird. Because we were really big into the church, like my grandfather's name was on the church, all this other stuff, and she thought I was just like a problem. Because 2 days after I was born, her daughter passed away. So she thought that I was some like bad omen. And so, people, superstitions, things. And then I got sent to go live with my other grandparents in California, and that's when the sexual abuse, the rape started, and things like that from my another family member in my family. People thought it was it's funny, like I start talking about this, like, oh, it's your dad, and then they start attacking my father. And I was like, it's not my dad. So, but another family member when I was away. And when that was happening, because his father had shot himself, okay, nobody believed that this was happening. And so you go on this whole journey of where you just fold. You fold within, and I had all of these questions of myself. I didn't know who I was. I wanted to die all the time. Anytime the external illusion did not serve me, I just wanted to escape this world. And so literally tried to, but what then you then do is you start to do things with a lot of effort and a lot of, so I was like straight A student, 1590 on my SAT, really good at track and field, all this other stuff, got into Harvard, got in these great schools, didn't go, pissed my dad off, ended up going to University of Houston running track, and got married at 18 years old because I'm like, I need a family because my dad, I watched how my family was so broken. And so that was like the starting point of all the trauma. But then I tried to take my life 4 times, slit my wrist, literally. I couldn't hold this microphone before I got into spirituality. I tried to put a gun to my head, pulled the trigger, no safety, didn't go off. And then did well financially though, had a company, it was a medical staffing company. My business partner embezzled $16 million, disappeared to Africa. I ended up being federally incarcerated for 3 years, okay? And in there, that was a hell of a spiritual journey because that's like observing the world and not being able to do anything about it. So you're literally watching the world fall apart and you can't go anywhere, can't do anything, you're watching everything, and then you gotta be friends with people in there and you're like, I would never be friends with these people. But then you learn not to judge people. You learn not to be righteous because if you do, you get your ass kicked, one. And then you learn not to do it out of fear. You learn to do it not out of fear, you learn to do it out of love. You learn to make friends. You learn to be like, oh, well, this guy that I probably never talked to with the tattooed tear and gold teeth, like, is my best friend, right? Or the guy with the swastika on his shoulder, right, who's like running the Aryan Brotherhood, and I'm sitting here helping him with his casework, and like we become really cool. And then I'm in there like being cool with everybody, and it became home. And then you recognize that freedom is where you are. And so that was like, I would say, the first real push of the spiritual journey of what I went through. And then I got out, and then the world comes at you, and it's like, whoa, this is way too fast. And then you do the thing you did before because that's what you think is success. And so I lost that stillness, and then I got back out, and then it started to shift again. And then right before COVID, it's wild. I think a lot of this happened for a lot of us. Just wake up. Somebody sent me a Dr. Joe Dispenza video. I was super sick at the time. And I watched this, if your thoughts can make you sick, your thoughts can make you well. And I'm like, this guy is weird. But something resonated, and I just leaned in, and then kept going and kept going. And then I got, addicted to Dr. Joe Dispenza. Addicted so much that I was able to go to his retreats and watch his kaleidoscope meditation and literally whip up hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this thing, but it was making me really sick. I was turning into like the biggest spiritual asshole. But I could repeat his stuff. He would even pull me on stage, and I would practice the breath in front of her. I was like the only guy in the audience he would pull on stage because I was taking the money that I was manifesting and giving it back to inner science research. Okay, like a lot of money. And so I kept going to these things, and that's how I survived for a year. It was like the weirdest mystical journey that I ever been on. But I wasn't well. Okay, I was losing my hair. I couldn't sleep. I was a spiritual vampire. I had a little cult here in LA. It was interesting. And no, it was like, yeah, it was like a little mini cult. And we would just, go out and eat pizza, the six of us, and I would like pontificate and come up with like the same idea. It was like Apple selling you the same phone over and over again. But that was me. And then I did two things. I think I was doing plant medicine every month. But I was chasing something and looking for the hallucination. Then I ended up doing this iboga journey. And that was, anybody know what this is? Okay, you know? Okay. You done it? No. Iboga? I didn't either. So, but I did it. So iboga is this African root that they give to individuals that have like addictions. Like they're addicted to heroin, so I apparently was addicted to the former version of myself. Take this root, tastes horrible. And usually they have ibogaine, which is like a shot you do. But I took this root, ate the thing, and you're paralyzed on the ground for like 36 hours, sometimes more, until you work through your trauma. So I'm working through my trauma patterns, and I'm like, okay. Then I recognize I have this massive feminine wound that I've never dealt with. And I got up, and then you fast beforehand, and I like threw up all this black shit that I don't know where it came from. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, it was bile and just stuff. I was like a lot of us did. And it was like a room of 8. And then I got out of that, and I was like, okay, I had to deal with my feminine wound, but I still didn't know how to love myself. So then I go to do the Hoffman process, okay? Everybody know what that is? No? So I go do a Hoffman process. I'll tell you about that. So Hoffman process is a 7-day, phones off. You go in with like a group of 30 or 40 individuals, and you literally work through your negative self-love patterns. So you map literally everything that you possibly could, like stuff in there, like there was porn on, like the one of them, you check a box, there's porn on the coffee table. I'm like, really? Like that's normal? And so that was something in my home, right? And I checked it, and I was like, that's my dad issue. And then there's these issues and that issue. And I was like, wow, this was really made for me. But I recognized I had 296 negative self-love patterns out of 500 that I mapped to my mother and my father, and I recognized that it wasn't me, that I got it from them. So then I recognized, well, in order for me to love myself, I have to forgive them. I really have to forgive them. I had to be aware of the trauma patterns, where they came from. I had to be able to express it and talk about it, not only physically, mentally, right? I had to be able to somatically release it. So I did this whole thing. And when I got out of there, I felt free as I ever could, but then I wasn't in integrity of the changes that I was going to make. And every time that I would go and do something that was part of those negative self-love patterns, it was like I cast a spell on myself because I removed the grace that I had given myself by not being aware. So now when I was aware, it was 2.5 years, I lost everything. Like literally everything. All my clients were gone, my business was gone, I lost all my money, everything just evaporated overnight. It was the wildest shit I've ever seen. And then I was like, okay, I need to start healing this. And then I figured out how to love myself. I figured out how to just take one step at a time. And that's when I was like, there's this guy in the group, his name is Ben, and he said, you should just get on Instagram and start talking. I was like, dude, I don't want to be on camera. I have no interest in doing this. And so I got on there and I put up this like wacky video of me drawing a thing. It was like 7 minutes long and on TikTok, and it did okay. And then I was like, this TikTok thing has no loyalty to it. Let me go on Instagram, and I had no Instagram account, 0 followers, and that was like 23 months ago. And I just started talking on there and just kept doing it and collaborated with like the Source Junkie and collaborated with the Universe is Calling, a couple other pages, and I'd do it. And fortunately I had a marketing agency. So I have a marketing agency that does like, paid marketing, and we have a video team and all this other stuff. And I was like, hey, can you guys do this? And they're like, maybe. So then they started to create these videos, and we had clients then started coming back, and our whole client mix, the ones that fired us were gone, and then all our client mix changed. Every client that we work with now, like they just got off of a Vipassana retreat and they found me, or a client was like, oh, hey, I'm now, getting into spirituality and I found you. So that, just like, it all just started to pull together. Like, got really interesting. So it was now all of the universes started to converge. Okay, thank you for the question, by the way. This is boring, you guys. But the universes started to converge, and then you just start to do the work. You get it out. You make mistakes. You learn. You get the feedback. You keep going, and then you just keep doing it over and over again. And then you just start to explore, and then somebody hands you a book and they this is going to help you. Some rabbi from Israel called me and said, you need to know this thing. And I'm like, okay, fine. And I'm just like listening and learning, and then fortunately, the way my brain processes, it puts it together in a way that's like seeing things that a lot of people don't see. And then my thing is, how do I bring that to the world? So that's how I got into this. Long way around the block to come home. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so there's here, I'll show you this real quick. There's a practice right here. This practice inside of the Sefer Yetzirah is this Jewish mysticism book around the Kabbalah. And if you read the book, it has very specific things to do about how to move the light all the way into the vessel. Okay? And this is one of the practices. They have a rule of 32. They have all these things that you can do. Like there's a thing, a rule of 32, you eliminate trauma. But inside of that, it's a way to start architecting reality. All right? And so one of these is this 231 gate. And it's what you do in this thing is you take the Hebrew letters, so you'll take like Aleph, and you'll map it to each one of the other ones, and then you take another letter, and then you map it, and so you'll say like Aleph, no, Aleph, Bet, Aleph, Gimel, Aleph this, Aleph that, and you do it, and by the time you get done with it, it's 231 times. And so it's like chanting, yeah. So that's the process. I was just like, I would like to know what I'm doing when I'm saying it. So I just took that principle and then started to ladder. I don't see there's anything wrong with it, even though probably like Kabbalist teachers would be like, screw you. But I just took that same principle and started doing it, and it started architecting the reality for me differently. As long as you're leading with your heart. And then the other thing that I did inside of the app, the one where it's the AI, is I have it mapped to the gematria and the numerology. So the numerology and the gematria should equal the number 6 as long as the AI doesn't hallucinate, because sometimes it comes out wrong. But it will, the statement that you get, if you add those numbers up, it should be a 6 and a 6. So you're basically taking that 6-dimensional framework, and 2 plus 3 plus 1 is 6. So therefore, you're actually creating that aspect of bringing your divine knowing into yourself. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's, so my thing is playing around with, I'll say one thing and then I got you. My thing is playing around with these ancient concepts and bringing it into modern states so we can, what I call, interrupt the patterns that we've held on to. Yes?
So you mentioned 6, and what do you think about 666?
It's a magical number. Let me show you. All right. So 666. 666, yeah, is 9. So the 6 sixes. Like 666 is 9 again. It's still 9, yeah. Yeah, it's still 9. So yeah, I mean, it's just taking this 2 times, and more than likely, if I were to then take a construct of it, it's a masculine, feminine version. It's taking the trinity of both sides and then pulling it together so you're getting the receivership and the giving at once. That make sense? Okay, yeah. And it's still 9, because then you get the divine plan for the all, but it comes through the concept of a hexagram, which would be, the Star of Solomon, David, whatever you want to call it.
So were you going to say something more about the 666?
No, I mean, it's not a bad number. We've been told that. If I wanted to say, here's an interesting thing. How much time do we have? We got 1 minute. All right. All right, I'm gonna say one thing. There is something about Judaism, okay, that has, it is a code that allows us to be able to take a very abstract thing and then bring it into a linear construct so that we as human beings can understand it. If you look at the world and how that group of individuals has gone from being a pretty large population to less than 2.2% of the population, but yet they are given all of this, but then sequestered without any land, okay? And all of a sudden now, like, there's some weird protection thing, but then we circle them with chaos, right? and then we pin them at each other. Like, it's a really interesting thing that's happening with them. And if you take that same thing and you go back to, the 1930s, if you know how to, and I even take this back even back to the Crusades, and I take this back even to, when the Catholic Church was doing its thing, there's something that when you can suppress that and own it for yourself, you can control humanity. That key and that information that is inside of that Judaism. And then if you reward the select few, then they become loyal to you so that they can keep themselves alive. Then what ends up happening is that whatever that magic is that allows us to move things through this linear construct is being held by a very set few. Okay? And when we know how to unlock it, then we take the power back. And so that's a lot of what I'm teaching, is how to take that power back and know how to work that system. Because candidly, I mean, if you look at even like Germany after World War I, literally like in a set of years, they take over the whole globe. Like, that is not strategic. That is magic. That is like them using esoteric symbols literally inside of their symbology and coding reality, and then playing around with this mystical framework in order to then go out and like mass destruction, and then hold things in a very specific space. And now we're just doing kind of the inverse of it. It's like more sleight of hand, and then this even happened a long time ago. And you just got to keep them small, because at which point, if it's too many, then they spread that information out. And it's not that they're better than anybody else. It's just there's some code inside of that that was channeled through Isaac and Abraham, and all Abraham to Isaac and all the way through, that has been kind of like bastardized and then stuck in these different silos and then broken. But all of us, when they all work together, whether, from Hinduism to Buddhism to Judaism to Christianity, they all work together. There's all this truth inside of it. And candidly, I mean, that's what I feel like, even, because if we believe Jesus Christ was crucified and he really walked this earth and whatnot, which, I believe he did this stuff. He's not the only way to get there, right? But it's a way. Not even the only way. He's just a guy. But he did some magical stuff. He just showed us how we can be, right? And that, whatever he was doing, the reason he got crucified for is because he was giving people the code of how they can actually be the collective Messiah, and for the few did not want him to do that. That was what it was. It had nothing to do with like this blasphemy thing that he was doing. He just wasn't supposed to give that out, right? So now we're here is to give that out. And all of us that have this knowledge now, we can go out and give this out to the world. All right? Thank you. Oh, yeah. Love you guys. Thank you for showing up. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. Yeah, absolutely. Bless you. Thank you. You as well.
Before you yank that out, let me take the audio for it.
Okay. Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? Look at you coming up here.
Happy to see you. Yeah, you as well.
How you been? Thanks. Thank you. It's been fun. Yeah.